The soul of Malaka village was etched in stone and sweat. It was a place that time and progress had seemingly forgotten. Pitched precariously atop a series of unforgiving, rocky hills, there were no roads leading to Malaka, only a treacherous network of footpaths that sneaked through thorn scrub and over sharp, weathered granite. To speak of a road was to speak of a myth, a tale told by the few who ventured out to the wider world and returned with stories of flat, black ribbons of tar that allowed metal beasts to glide effortlessly.
Accessing Malaka was a pilgrimage of endurance. Visitors, traders, and the returning king had to alight at Namanda, a bustling, chaotic market situated a world away, 8 kilometers down in the valley. From Namanda, the journey began. The first kilometer was a gentle, deceptive slope, but soon the land reared up, forcing travelers into a laborious, shuffling climb. Bicycles were useless, their tires shredded by the sharp stones. Motorbikes, the iron horses of the lowlands, would bark and stall, their engines screaming in protest before their riders gave up in frustration. Even the old, sturdy ox carts of the plains below were no match for the Malaka's terrain. Only human feet, calloused and certain, could navigate the ascent.
Life in Malaka was therefore cyclical and self-contained, governed by the rising sun, the coming rains, and the rhythm of the harvest. News traveled slowly, carried on the lips of those who had made the arduous journey. The world beyond the hills was a distant rumor. It was a life of profound quiet, where the loudest sounds were the cry of a hawk, the laughter of children, or the rhythmic thud of a pestle in a mortar. Until the evening, it all changed.
The rain had been falling for hours, not the violent deluge of a full-blown storm, but a persistent, soaking drizzle that turned the footpaths into slippery streams of red mud. It was a day for staying indoors, for huddling around the smoky fire, the air thick with the smell of wet earth and simmering stew. In the modest, mud-walled home of Mzee Wafula Kaloki, the evening meal was underway. 12-year-old Namwenya, his youngest daughter, had just finished her portion of ugali and greens. She was restless, her youthful energy chafing against the confines of the small hut. Ignoring her mother's gentle chiding, she pushed aside the heavy hide flap that served as a door and stepped out in the damp twilight.
She went to check on the family's small pen of goats, nestled against a thick sisal fence that marked the edge of their compound. The rain had softened to a fine mist. A strange, unnatural stillness had fallen. The chorus of crickets and frogs momentarily silenced, and then she saw it.
There, on a patch of ground that was notoriously uneven and strewn with rocks, where not even a wheelbarrow could be settled, stood a car. It was long and boxy, a shape she had only seen in a tattered magazine a trader had once left behind. Its color was a luminous, pristine white that seemed to glow in the gloom, repelling the mud and the shadows. It was parked parallel to the sisal fence, as if it had been placed there by a giant, gentle hand.
For a moment, Namwenya's mind refused to process the image. Her breath caught in her throat. Her heart began to hammer against her ribs, a frantic drum against the sudden silence of the village. She blinked, rubbed her eyes, certain it was a trick of remained solid, real, impossible. Panic, awe, and a jolt of pure, unadulterated shock finally found her voice.
Mother, father, come and see. There is a car parked near the fence.
Inside, the clatter of utensils stopped. Her father, Mzee Kaloki, a man whose face was a roadmap of seasons and worries, looked at his wife, a silent question in his eyes. A car? Here? The child was dreaming, but the raw terror in her voice was undeniable. Heaving himself up, he led the family outside, abandoning their half-eaten supper. And there, as they rounded up the corner of the hut, they all stopped dead.
True to Namwenya's story, it stood there, a white Combi car, gleaming as if freshly washed, impossibly clean in the muddy surroundings. It had no speck of dirty, no sign of having traversed the brutal terrain from Vinswa. Its tires were clean, its body immaculate, and it had no number plates, neither at the front nor at the back.
The real spectacle, however, was inside. The interior of the car was bathed in a soft, warm radiance. Through the clear windows, they could see 4 figures. 2 men sat in the front and 2 women in the back. They were all dressed in flowing robes of the same pure white as the vehicle. The men's heads were wrapped in what looked like white turbans, topped with small matching hats. The women wore long, elegant dresses, their hair covered by white scarves that draped over their shoulders.
They were utterly serene. Each held a book with a cover that seemed to shimmer, and they were engrossed in reading. Their heads were bowed in concentration, and they never once looked up. They paid no mind to the growing commotion outside, as unconcerned as if they were in another dimension altogether. A string of delicate, golden lights, like captured fireflies, blinked in a slow, hypnotic rhythm along the car's inner roof lining, casting a heavenly glow on the occupants' peaceful faces. Mzee Kaloki was the first to find his voice.
By the spirits of our ancestors, what is this?
The news spread through Malaka like a bushfire. Namwenya's initial scream had been the spark. Within minutes, doors creaked open and figures emerged, drawn by the incredible rumor. One by one, then in small groups, the entire village convened at Karaoke's compound. The old, the young, mothers with babies strapped to their backs, young men full of bravado and old women leaning on walking sticks. They all came. A collective gasp went through the crowd as they saw the celestial vehicle and its silent occupants. Whispers turned into a low, buzzing hum of speculation.
Are they from the government? The government men wear khaki and boots, and they sweat. These ones, they are not sweating, they are spirits. The ancestors have come to visit us. No! They look like members of the strange religion, the ones who wear white and speaks of paradise.
But none of the explanation fit. How did the car get there? There were no tracks, no flattened bushes, no sign of its passage. The ground around it was undisturbed, save for the footprints of the gathering villagers. It was as if it had simply materialized. The villagers stood and watched. For hours, the rain stopped completely, and the clouds parted to reveal a sky full of stars, their distant light seemingly to pay homage to the brighter, more immediate miracle in the midst. The 4 figures in the car never moved, save for the occasional, graceful turning of a page. They did not speak, they did not look out, they simply read, bathed in their golden, blinking light. As the night deepened and the moon climbed high, a strange and gentle lethargy began to creep over the crowd. It wasn't the normal fatigue of a long night. It was a soft, irresistible drowsiness, a sense of profound peace that settled over them like a warm blanket. Men who had boasted they would stand guard all night found their eyelids growing heavy. Women who had been murmuring prayers found their voices fading into soft sighs. It was as if the car itself was exuding a calming aura, lulling the entire village into a deep, collective slumber. One by one, they all fell asleep, right where they sat. They slumped against each other, their heads nodding onto their chests. A silent congregation lost in a shell, inexplicable trance. The last conscious thought of many was of the blinking golden lights, a steady, rhythmic pulse in the heart of the village. The world returned with the sharp, intrusive life of dawn, a rooster crowed, shattering the morning stillness. Mzee Kaloki was the first to stir, his neck stiff, his mind clouded with the remnants of the dream he couldn't quite grasp. He sat up, shaking his head to clear the fog. He looked towards the sisal fence and his heart stopped. It was young Namwenya, her voice racing hysterically. She was pointing at the empty space. Her eyes swelled. She was not just speaking to the villagers. A new group had arrived, drawn by a message sent at dawn by a fleet-footed runner to Windsor Market. A pair of inquisitive journalists from a national newspaper had made the punishing climb to Malaka. Their faces flushed with exertion and skepticism. They interviewed Mzee Kaloki. They spoke to the elders. They questioned Namwenya, who recounted her story with a passionate, unwavering conviction. They took photographs of the empty space, of the crowds of expectant faces, of the impossible footpaths.
A collective groan of despair and confusion swept through the crowd. They surged forward to the spot. There was nothing, no indentation on the soil, no lingering warmth, no tired tracks. Not even a single blade of grass seemed out of place. It was as if it had never been there at all.
58 years, more than a lifetime. The footpaths to Malaka remained as treacherous as ever. The world below had changed beyond recognition. Mobile phones had replaced runners. The internet had replaced newspapers. But Malaka remained an island in time. Its rocky slopes a fortress against the relentless march of modernity. No road had ever been carved into its hills. Cars was still a foreign concept, a myth that could not conquer the terrain.
They had heard the wide tale in town, a car appearing from thin air in the inaccessible village. They had come expecting to debunk a case of mass hysteria or a drunken fantasy. Now, faced with the honest, unified testimony of an entire village, they were bewildered.
Namwenya, the hysterical 12-year-old girl, was now a grandmother. She had married a man from a village in a far-off, flatter land where cars were a daily sight. She had raised children and was now helping to raise her children's children. But a piece of her soul had never left the slopes of Malaka. Every year, she'll make the arduous journey back home to the place of the miracle. She will stand by the old sisal fence, now withered and grey, and tell her grandchildren the story.
The name stuck. The story was published, a curious little piece on an inside page about the strange beliefs of a remote hill tribe. It was read with mild amusement in the cities, and then forgotten by all but the people of Malaka. For them, it was not a story, it was a sacred memory, the most significant event in the village's history. 58 years, more than a lifetime.
Mzee Makona Simiu, a man whose back was now bent like a bow, but whose eyes were still sharp, was a strapping youth of 20 that night.
I was a young warrior then, full of fire. When I first saw it, I thought it was a trick, a government scheme to scare us. I crept closer than anyone, trying to see a flock, a wire, an engine, anything to explain it. But there was nothing. It was perfect. It made no sound. The ground beneath it had rock and mud. But the car, it just floated there. It was not of this earth. The night I learned that man's strength is nothing against the mysterious of God. It humbled me. I saw it, and I had never doubted it for a single day since.
And the car from heaven never returned. The village held its breath for a year, then a decade, then a generation. The vigil had ended that first morning, but the waiting had not. Every strange light in the sky, every unusual silence in the night sparked a flicker of hope that soon died out. Many who had been there that night had grown old and passed away, taking their vision of the celestial vehicle with them to their graves. They died waiting.
Maikuma Joram, the village logician, a man known for his meticulous memory, focused on the details.
The legend was now woven into the fabric of the village. The elders who remained, their faces a crisp parchment of time, were the custodians of the memory. their eyewitness accounts treated as a gospel.
Finally, Mzee Cleophas Wamalwa, the oldest of them all, who had seen nearly a century of seasoned Passover Malaka, offered a philosophical view.
People ask, why did it come? Why did it leave? They wait for it to return, to give them answers, to build a road for them. They miss the point. It did not come to be understood. It came to be seen. It was a sign that even here in our forgotten corner of the world, on our hard rocks and difficult paths, we are not invisible. Heaven has eyes. It can reach everywhere. No road needed. It came to plant a memory, a story that will tell forever. The car is gone, yes, but the wonder is still here. It lives in us, and we are still waiting, not for the car, but to see what other impossible things might be true.
Joy Namuhula, whose laughter still echoed with the joy of a young girl, remembered the collective experience. And so the waiting continued, a quiet, patient generational waiting. The story of the car from heaven became Malaka's greatest treasure, a mystery that defined it. It was a testament to a night when the impossible had packed itself at their fence, bathed them in a golden light, and vanished, leaving behind nothing but the unshakable certainty that they had been witnesses to a miracle and a memory more precious and enduring than any road could ever be.